this part of his question. And for our department, he always extends the support whether he is state or local. So it's always a pleasure to have in the department. Uh, the topic that he is going to listen to is very relevant in this context, policy reforms and obviously higher education, obviously higher education. There are many scholars in our department, whether they are advertising students or an AEPL. Obviously, some of the PhD students, they have chosen research projects related to higher education. For them and for others also, this lecture will definitely be uh, very beneficial for them, and it's always a pleasurable experience for us to listen to him. The valuable inputs that he gives to us, definitely goes a long way in triggering a new ideas and broadening the mental horizon, whatever topic he speaks on. So I, on behalf of Department of Educational Studies, warmly welcome Professor Kumar Suresh sir, and, and I believe that today's input will definitely be a great turning point for all of us, both academically and will be, at the end of the day, richer with experience and new knowledge. Thank you very much, and I welcome once again Professor Kumar Seth. Thank you.
Very good morning to all of you. Professor Ikram Ahmed Sahab, Professor Harjeet Kaur Bhatia, Ajaz Masih Sahab, other colleagues who are serving in the Department of Educational Studies. I always consider this as an opportunity for me to come to this institution. It is not just one way, which Professor Ahmad was highlighting, that whenever I am invited, I try to honor the invitation and accept invitation despite other engagements. This speaks the volume of my connect to this Department of Educational Studies. Uh, that is true that in the institution where I am working, variety of works are there, not merely teaching, but other responsibilities. So sometimes we find it difficult to meet. I was also in the committees of the Department of Educational Studies. Some of the meeting I could attend, others I could not. But always, with my home, academic home, the Department of Educational Studies. So far, so at the outset, I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to all the colleagues in the department and, of course, the Department of Educational Studies, irrespective of the person in the chair. I have been able to connect to each of you at every point of time. So, thank you. You have created a very comfortable kind of feeling in the department, and that has also been one of the points of attraction to come to this institution. And of course, a student in the past, we had 3 or 4 years. We had also organized internship program for students of educational planning and administration. And even during that period, it was really personally, I was um, involved in this internship program. One advantage of my connect to this institution, when I received this invitation to speak about a theme which I have been working and closely, associated with the whole idea of governance as a matter of practice in that institution also. I generally do not use PPT. That is my limitation. Forgive me for this because many times this PPT is also very restrictive. Sometimes it restricts the flow of thought. Second point I would like to make I always believe in dialogue, and all of you are a student of education. So dialogue is very, very important. Whether you talk about, say, Bordeaux, or you take you from Habermas University as a public sphere, dialogue is at the very heart of the entire idea of university. So I believe in dialogue. It is not that all of you students of education, MAd or educational planning and administration or research scholars, I do not believe in banking system of education. I am using some of the concept. I presume that all of you are very, very familiar with the concepts. Even if I'm using just a concept, you can say easily connect to the idea what I'm proposing to this. So therefore, what I propose to do, maybe around 30 minutes or so, I'll be speaking about the policy reforms and governance. Since I'm interacting with the student, I would also expect you to ask question, interrogate me. It is not that I'm giving a kind of sermon which should not be interrogated. It is therefore dialogic exchange of idea is the very starting point of this whole with you today. So therefore, what I propose to do, I would speak about policy reforms and governance. Three or four components I would like to touch upon. First, I'll start with the idea of governance. And when I'm talking about the idea of governance, definitely I would like to revisit. I mean, the entire trajectory of the idea of governance, keeping governance at the center, or other, vice versa, idea of university. Only then perhaps we will be able to make sense of the whole idea of governance of higher education or governance of university system. All of you are a student of, say, education. At any point of time, you also might have studied the scientific management theory related to organization, classical organizational theory. Uh, Therefore, I would start with the whole idea of governance, conceptual understanding about the idea of governance. Second, can we make sense of the idea of governance without making reference to the idea of university? That is the question, and all of you should interrogate this question with your own understanding. Can we apply the whole idea of governance, which is applicable in other organizations? Taking cue from classical organizational theory to behavioral approach, or later on, say, the whole idea of governance. Can we make sense of the same concept of governance in the case of, say, university system? To my understanding, not at all. And therefore, the governance of higher education has its own specific context. And this specific context needs to be unraveled. It has to be also deconstructed. And for deconstructing the whole idea of university and governance, my focus primarily would be internal governance of the university, and therefore different models of governance I will be talking about. Third component would be that how can we make sense of the idea of governance in our own Indian higher education context? Do we have a distinct model of governance disconnect to the idea of university, especially related to Oxbridge model or London University model? That would be the third component. Fourth component would be that when we started the trajectory, or when we started the journey of university system in India, uh, what kind of changes have taken place over the years, particularly during the last 25 or 30 years, last quarter of the last 20th century. That may be considered as important watershed. Important milestones in the whole idea of, development in, different concepts within the university system. And therefore, earlier you were not familiar, you might not have come across a concept of academic capitalism. You might not have come across the concept of entrepreneurial university. You might not have come across the concept of innovative university. Might not have come across the idea of enterprising university. These are the new discourses in higher education. Can we imagine the whole idea of governance of higher education without making reference to these conceptual categories? Can we just think about governance of higher education in a mode in which university internal governance has been thought of in terms of the principle of collegiality within, and collegiality within especially derived from Oxbridge model of university governance. So these are, initial components of my this. What kind of changes have been there globally, and what kind of changes we have been experiencing in India? What kind of policy changes or policy reforms have been introduced in the area of higher education? How these policy reforms are shaping and reshaping the entire discourse on governance of higher education, both in terms of principle and also practices of governance. Important the components around which, though I understand that I have the concept of governance is the same, which we, as a student of educational administration or education, we have been referring to idea of educational administration. I do not want to get into that kind of, because that will be more time taking, and that is also already articulated in the textbook, the idea of educational administration. And all of you, as a student of education, at one point or another, you might have also studied about the classical organizational theory. I'm referring to especially Taylor and some of the components like unity of command, hierarchy, distinction between private and public. All these ideas somehow also link to the idea of Max Weber, bureaucratic rationality, wherein a strict calculation between means and ends. So everything is calculated and perhaps fitted into a kind of mathematical formula, wherein this bureaucratic rationality that is also referred as idea of rationality. So in one way or the other, the first priority was to maintain discipline, was to create a kind of an organizational culture in the fitted around the principle and practices related to rationality. So it has its own logic. I do not want to try to traverse through the journey of the entire conceptual, say, understanding, wherein human relation approach or system theory or behavioral approach are already reflected in the textbook, and I'm assuming that all of you are aware about this. Why I talk about governance? Governance is a new conceptual category having serious implications for understanding the whole idea of, say, whole idea of education, its management and practices. So governance, it is not. Sometimes in the literature of law and political science, governance was used, but it was primarily used as an extension of the idea of government, extension of a state. So state-centered or government-centered governance. So that was the foundational idea related to education. But if we are talking about governance in contemporary context, it is almost a kind of departure from paradigmatic shift, I would like to say. Paradigmatic shift from the whole idea of, say, governance. In the contemporary comment, there is no, of course, unified one single definition related to governance. Two important ways to approach the governance concept of governance. One of to the art and science of governing. That is one standardized kind of say definition of governance. Second is that governance refers to the structure and process of decision making. So for operational understanding, you can take these two reference points related to governance. But the point which I am referring to, Governance I am referring to altogether in a different context, wherein governance is not centered around the idea of government. It is talking about actors other than government. In this context, you may be also aware about if you are a student of some of you may be also researching higher education. Burton Clark. Burton Clark has talked about the triple model of coordination, wherein he is talking about a state, market, and civil society. Three angles are there; they are connected, and relative importance of one over the others in a given about governance. It refers to a kind of partnership between a state market, and civil society. Of course, Barton is talking about academic oligarchy. He's not talking about civil society or community. He's talking about academic oligarchy. If we take the whole conceptual category of oligarchy, it may have negative connotation. For positive understanding of the concept of it we may take as academic fraternity or academic community. So, triangle of a state, market, and academic community. These three important actors define the whole, relation of, I mean, whole context of governance in contemporary context. What is the point which I would like to highlight? The point which I am trying to highlight that governance, the contemporary usage of the concept of governance is talking about departure from the government-centered approach of the whole idea of governing or the structure and process of decision making. It is more about multiple actors and multiple actors coming together or organization. So multiple actors are involved in this, and therefore number of conceptual innovations are there or conceptual reference points are there. One could be network governance. So network governance is one, articulation or extension of the idea of governing that could be an important reference point for all of us to understand. Second, good governance and other multiple, multi-level governance, different conceptual categories are there. Our own understanding of the governance for our own usage. We are talking about higher education governance. Can we think about governance? Of course, I made reference of Burton Clark or triple helix model we may be discussing later. But I take a view that governance of higher education is not the same, which has been defined a space of organizational culture or which has been operating in the context of other organizations. Governance of higher education has its own specificity. I would like to underline that governance of higher education has its own specific context. And a specific context I am referring to the idea of university. Idea of university. And if I'm referring to the idea of university, in your own country, you have a long tradition of rich tradition, intellectual tradition. And you had already example, which is not living example, but definitely you had Nalanda, Vikramshila. And the kind of model that represented in terms of university that also exemplified a kind of governance model wherein the kind of of a student and teacher reflected differently and less intervention or interference of the state. That was one model. But since these two universities, which you can infer some of the points on the basis of archaeological sources and other historical sources, but these are not living realities. So therefore, we may have to go back to the idea of university, which we have inherited as a part of colonial projects. Establishment of three universities in India, Bombay, Calcutta universities, were established on, largely it is referred as based on the London University model, or in other words, Oxbridge model of university. And since Oxbridge model of university is an immediate reference point. What is special about Oxbridge model of university and university governance? They're largely, of course, across the globe. It is not that it is 19th century where in the idea of university has started, or we started the generating of knowledge. It is not so. What is therefore important that various models are be there. But as a student of education or education, a student of higher education, especially we can say broadly, literature suggests, literature related to governance of higher education, three important models. One is continental European model of university, idea of, or more specifically, Oxbridge model about, say, American model of university, idea of university and university governance. So broadly three. Within there could be multiple, models. What is special about this? Why I am referring to this historical context? Because historical context, whenever we start talking about a student community, if we start talking about teaching fraternity, we say that yes, autonomy should be available to us. Where does the idea of autonomy come from? Why do we talk about that university is an autonomous state, a space wherein a student and teacher will decide what is to be taught, what is to be learned, how it is to be evaluated, and a state had no business to interfere in this? Do you think that the kind of debate which we enter in our own discourses, these are disconnected ideas, and this is something which we are talking about now? Certainly not. It has historical root, and the historical root can be located in the very idea of university. And therefore, the three models I would like to since this is little extended, but for the benefit of our student, I would like to traverse through the idea of these models. In case of continental model of university, yes. Now, just I'm coming to. Thank you. I'm coming to European continental model. European continental model, two subcategories are referred to. First is Bologna University model in 12th century onward. This is medieval. You may ask question that why I'm referring to this European model or Oxford model or American model of university, because our universities have deep roots in these ideas. Al-Azhar University, many of you may be aware about that. It was very rich tradition. Nalanda and Vikramshila I talked about. This is not just this. Why I am referring to this model? Because it has important, these models have important implications for our own university system and the whole idea of university. So in the case of European continental model, two subcategories. One is Bologna model, another is Paris model of, say, university. In case of Bologna model, the students were the actual, center of power, locus of authority and power. The student used to decide how university will be run and what kind of teaching has to be adopted within the university system, and teachers were supposed to honor that, and teachers were, in a sense, subordinate to the student guild. That was the tradition. It was only awarding the degree. It is what about the degree, how degree will be awarded, this was with the teachers. But by and large, the locus of power and authority rested with the student in Bologna model of university. The subcategory of continental middle, Paris model. But this locus of power from a student to shifted to the teachers. In the first case, in the Bologna model, rector was the representative of church, representative of church. So rector outside the university system. So a student had to negotiate with the rector. That was the tradition. But this model could not sustain for a long time. And finally, the locus of power and authority rested, transferred from a student to teacher. So professorial model of university governance. So professor became the center of, so guild office, this was also referred as the guild model of scholars in case of Paris, and chancellor became important. So chancellor was of course representing the church and on the authority at that point of time. And there was tussle between professors and chancellor, because chancellor represented different, authority structure, wherein students teachers were in the favor of complete autonomy within the university spaces. So there was tussle between them. But at the same time, it is also important that professorial model of university idea and university governance are very, very important. And therefore, despite the presence of chancellor, the professors have, larger share and say in the entire idea of governance of university. But in any case, if the professors used to control the power during this period, definitely it has its own implication. Implication in the sense that in a sense it represented a control and command model. Command rested with the professorial model of university system. It was also included hierarchy. So this was a limitation of the European continental model of university governance. The second model is very, very important for all of us to understand. Oxbridge model. Sometimes it may be kept as the British model of university governance, but Oxbridge model means Oxford and Cambridge. Our university, by and large, founded upon the principle and practices of Oxbridge model. I come from a state, Bihar. Patna University, nowadays that is not much known, but there was a tradition which was considered to be very, very important one. That represented Cambridge model of, university. That university is there, and Canchuan College is part of this. So, undergraduate not, teaching not as a responsibility of university department, but separate, but integral part of the university. That was also representing Cambridge model of university. What is special about this? This idea of Cambridge University and Oxbridge model is very, very important, because it represented a model of governance which is referred as collegiality within. Collegiality within. So the idea, therefore, I gave an example that whenever we invoke the idea of autonomy, perhaps it comes from our Oxbridge model of university and university governance, wherein autonomy was at the heart of the whole idea of university governance. And collegiality भी थी. So आप में से कोई रिसर्च भी कर रहे हैं, शेयर गवर्नेंस and other. This was a kind of share model of governance. So each and every actor within the university system, they were part of the whole idea of university governance. Perhaps I am not able to capture the attention of the student, but it could be for your own benefit, because once you go for interview, and therefore it may not be considered as irrelevant. Otherwise, I could have flagged in just few questions and just stopped over there. I'm traversing through the journey, because you may have, for getting this idea, you may have to traverse through the entire literature of, say, higher education. And that is the reason deliberately I'm traversing through the idea of university, and keep this in mind. And any university interview, it may be, apart from your doctoral thesis and all, it may be asked. So therefore, I would request all to pay attention at least for another 20 minutes. That is for your own interest. Okay? No idea is irrelevant. Okay? You agree or not agree, that is a different case. But all of us at least open our mind to accept something which is not a core of your concern or your say study. So with this note, so coming back to the whole idea of collegiality. So therefore, in the case of university governance, three important models are talked about. Collegial model of university governance, or I am talking about. Second is bureaucratic model of university governance. Third is entrepreneurial model of university governance. In case of collegial model of governance, which is very, very important. And this idea of collegiality derived from Oxbridge model of university governance, wherein the whole idea of senate, syndicate, or in our case, executive council, university council, academic council, board of studies, departmental council. These are the structures, and these are the structures not. These are the structures of decision making. But each of the structures has its own relevance and importance. It is not that the vice chancellor will take all decision arbitrarily. Even a decision is to be taken by the vice chancellor, this has to get legitimacy from all these bodies, starting from a departmental say committee to board of studies, then academic council and others. In case of academic council, the academic council is generally considered just supreme body to take decision about academic matters, introducing no courses, course revision, or curriculum, related aspect and others. So therefore, this whole idea of collegiality gets articulated through different committee system within the university, and of course many of them are part of the statutory body. So these bodies may be also, not maybe, it is part of the University Act, or a statute, or by law of university, how university will be governed. So we by and large have followed the tradition of collegial model of university governance, wherein shared decision making. It is not that one actor or head of the institution will be taking all the decision. And autonomy within, I mean, if you are talking about autonomy, within each of the structure, autonomy has its own autonomy. Executive council or board of management and others, they have their own autonomy, but departmental council has also its own autonomy to decide about the priorities of the department. This is distinctive aspect of the whole idea of university governance within the framework of collegial model of university governance. Two other models quickly coming to the idea: bureaucratic model, as name suggests, that decisions have to be taken by just not through the shared decision making through different bodies, and this that would be more understood in the framework of control and command. So control and command may be coming from top, and the decision will be taken in a bureaucratic manner without taking into account any of the views or dissent and others. That is second model. Third model, which is very, very important now, which is also informing the entire discourse and debate around the governance of higher education, primarily in case of European, say, university system, entrepreneurial model of university. So risk taking, whosoever is in the helm of affair, he or she should be able to take a decision related to university governance, risk taking, because this is onus is on the head of the institution to generate resources, internal resources, fund and support the institution, introduce new courses which is more market oriented and other. So these three models are there. Whenever we talk about governance of higher education in India, this whole idea of collegiality is at the center, and therefore unrest on the campuses, wherein a student will be taking a position that yes, our interests should be protected and we should be considered as important actor and stakeholders of the entire idea of university. Teachers keep on talking about academic autonomy. Three different kinds of autonomy: financial autonomy, academic autonomy, and administrative autonomy. Academic autonomy is at the heart of the idea of university. Teachers and students will decide about the whole idea of, say, what kind of autonomy they require, what kind of academic course and curriculum is supposed to be in place, and how assessment and others. So this should be, and therefore the idea of, I mean, in bits and pieces you can just map out. For example, internal assessment. So internal assessment, definitely that is one. Secondly, it is also can be understood in terms of academic decision making, that any teacher or a student can raise, I mean, the governance body of university, ideally in the principle of collegiality, should consist of a student also. And maybe in your own university, some of your student representative would be member of, say, governing bodies. So if they are there, they will raise the voices. It is not possible in any bureaucratic organization, or so this is specific to the idea of university. But this is broad context of governance of higher education. What kind of changes are taking place? So therefore, policy reforms in case of India, if we are referring to, number of changes have been introduced over the last 3 decades. The kind of principle and practices which are in operation in other organizations as a general, say, aspect of public administration, new public management, new managerial practices. So these are new conceptual categories which are also making its presence felt in the university spaces. What does it mean? It means that the emphasis is more on outcome rather than input. Outcome in the process of governance, how governance is leading to towards outcome rather than just input based. So shift from input based governance to outcome based governance. The whole idea of outcome is inbuilt in the idea of new managerial practices, in the idea of new public management practices, wherein three important E's: efficiency of the system, effectiveness of the system, and economies of scale. These three important E define the whole idea of new public management and new public administration or new managerial practice in university government. This is the development of during the last 3 decades globally. In our own case, if you just see, number of changes have been introduced over the past 20 years. Our structural adjustment program started in the 1980s, sorry, in 1990s. 1990s onwards, you have seen number of changes. At the time of, say, our independence, number of universities were very, very limited. Now the number has increased. Colleges and institutions, you may be aware about more than 1100 universities, 1100 stand-alone institutions, and more than 43,000 colleges. These are substantial increase in the number of institutions. Similarly, enrollment has increased. Nearly 4.5 crore students are in the university system, 1.5 million teachers. This expansion is not disconnected to the kind of changes which have been brought about in the entire system. And in this system, again coming back to Burton Clark, which he talked about, triple model of coordination, wherein a state, market, and academic oligarchy, all the three important actors are part of this. This, in one way or the other, also getting reflected in our own governance practices of the university system in variety of ways. It is not just in one way, but if you just see, as a researcher, as a student of education, you can take this, that what kind of policy reforms have been taken over the past years, I mean 20 years or so. You just take one or two or three policy and make it in-depth analysis. You can develop a paper. For example, the whole idea of accreditation and ranking, that was absent from our own education system. This is important policy reforms introduced in the case of higher education. This has been introduced with the establishment of NAC in 1994, and then NIRF in 1915. These are not merely introduction in the realm of higher education. It has important, say, outcome of the policy reforms, and policy reforms are deeply rooted in, say, presence of market in the higher education context, and therefore debate has shifted. Earlier, there was no debate in terms that whether university is a public good, education is a public good or private good. Now, the debate started 1990 onwards, and one of the dominant voices is that no, it at most could be considered as service good rather than public good. This shift in the entire, say, notion or understanding and reference point of the whole idea of education as a public good, it has important implication for the whole idea of governance of the university system. This is really important reference point for us. So therefore, if you just see in case of number of policies, whether it is related to ranking, it is related to accreditation, it could be also related to in the curriculum. Now, learning objectives and learning outcome. These are integral part of the whole idea of curriculum. Perhaps we did not make much reference to this idea. So these are some of the changes which are shaping the whole governance context of higher education, and this governance can be seen in a variety of ways wherein presence of market in case. And if I was referring to the triple, angle, triangle of coordination between state market and academic oligarchy, for our own convenience, we can use academic fraternity. So I was also making pre-qualifying that relative importance of each of the triangles. At one point of time, it was academic oligarchy which defined the entire governance of higher education. Means it was in the hands of academic community which decided how quality has to be monitored, how quality has to be governed also. Second stage comes wherein a state takes control of the whole idea of regulation. And then third comes the market. And market, and in contemporary context, has become very, very important actor in the entire university governance, and therefore the market would be dictating how the education, and therefore the discourses you can also deconstruct. Discourses in that there should be close link between industry and knowledge. Traditionally, university has been considered as a site of knowledge generation or not merely as a skill formation. Now, duality of course were there, but it was important that university should be considered as a space of knowledge generation and not merely a skill generation. There was no discourse that there should be linkage between, say, university and industry. Now it is one of the most important and a starting point of the whole idea. So whole range of development, if you just closely look into our own higher education system, you will find that fundamental departure from the model which we had adopted, Oxbridge model of university, wherein collegiality was most important and defining aspect of university governance, shift is taking place. And therefore, collegiality, even if in terms of a structure is there, but in operational practice, you may find departure from there, wherein bureaucratic model of say governance of university may be getting translated in variety of ways and manifestations. In some cases, entrepreneurial kind of qualities of leadership is being encouraged. Now we are not talking about head of the institution. Now we have starting referring as leaders of higher education, institutional leaders. All these conceptual categories which we are now using has also offshoot of the policy reform and shifting discourse of governance in higher education. So these are some of the points I wanted to share. I had proposed that I will be taking only 30 minutes. Perhaps I crossed that time limit, but I'm sure that you may have a number of questions to ask, clarification, to integrate the idea, especially those who are not say paying attention. Then this is now time for them to ask questions and get say idea, or if they are very much rich with the idea about governance and university, most welcome to open up and submit your own view, opinion, or idea of interrogation. So I stop here. Thank you very much. हम आपसे जरूर पूछना चाहेंगे, हम तब तक नहीं पूछेंगे इस सवाल को जब तक आप क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछेंगे।
There's a current issue of one in the society. Okay, you know, the news is there. So what can we do with a policy reform if this intent will not happen?
This, important question is not asked. Okay, so I'm asking, genuine and very important question. This is a larger question wherein, we should come collectively. This should be also a kind of building and relocating ourselves in the entire idea of education in the public. The concept you are talking about, why this course has shifted from education in the public to education in the service. Service would also implicate it is primary, that is private. Of course, national education policy is talking about, not national education is talking about that education is not to be commercialized, and 6% of GDP would be needs to be allocated for education. It has never been realized. So there could be also a kind of disconnect between professing something and practice. So there could be disconnect. Perhaps all of us have to come. Of course, it is not easy say proposition and option. There connect. If you are also aspiring to be a global leader in higher education, China has proven its own model that how it can emerge. But if you are not in the mold of that kind of governance system, definitely you have to build a kind of public opinion wherein our own higher education system, first of all, it needs to be reformed. It more because we are not only diverse, country, but also unequal. These two are major challenges in our own case. And we cannot just blindly follow the whole market principle in the entire education system and subsequently governance. So therefore, concern is really, really very important one. The policy is not, to my understanding, not directed towards articulating the idea of education as a public good. Perhaps all of us, as a citizen of the country, if we come together and create this kind of discourses wherein there should not be agenda of replacing the whole idea of education as a public good, but reinstating faith in the public institution and public funding of higher education, not innovative measures or innovative financing model and other. That is what I feel. Yeah.
Sir, I want to just know your opinion about our today's present examination system. So should be a change in our policies because
Important. It is not just a small question. It has whole. Your question could be located in the whole idea of auxiliary model or academic autonomy within the university. What has happened? This is in one of the programs which we are organizing for the head of the institutions. One of the chairperson, no, sorry, vice chancellors of one of the professional universities, publicly funded professional university, he was sharing that what kind of autonomy idea of university and autonomy. We are not allowed what is to be taught in the classroom. Micromanagement of academic programs, and that is by the council. One of the council, I would not like to name the council. So one of the councils, among other many federal councils, one of the councils giving direction that what will be the hour of teaching, how many classes is to be taught, what is to be taught. So teacher have no autonomy, institution have no autonomy. The idea of examination, therefore, what over the years, this may be having two important reference points. One is that we have entered into a culture of testing and a score, which is definitely very, very bad and fatal for our young children. That culture of a score and testing should not be in there. that should be a part of the entire integrated, embedded in the entire teaching learning process. And therefore, the national education is a treasure of ideas. The challenge is that how this treasure would be opened up and distributed in the benefit of the community, or how it can be translated into a living reality. That is a challenge which will take time. So far, national education policy is really very, very perceptive kind of recommendation, wherein it's talking about that shift from, say, summative assessment to formative assessment. And formative assessment in multiple ways, continuous, flexible. There could be number of ways of assessing a student. Currently, the practice is that only 25% or 30% internal assessment. Why not? If I'm a teacher, I'm teaching my own student, why should not I be able to judge the learning level of a student? And what we are trying, just posing, asking 5 or 10 or MCQ would not serve the purpose. I am deeply engaged with the children. It could be also examination, could be also a state of mind. At that particular time, be learning over this. This could be, say CRT is working on this, and soon a framework will be coming in. In case of higher education, I also feel that there is no substitute of, say, continuous and flexible learning. I can take, cite example of as a student of Jawaharlal Nehru University. It was not that the term paper, the end term examination was the sole determinant of our learning. Teacher have sufficient role to play to the extent of designing the curriculum. What it will be taught. I'm not aware about the current practice. I'm talking about 25, 30 years back story or more than that. So at that point of time, therefore, evaluation definitely needs to be flexible, continuous, rather than this through examination. This is a system of elimination rather than selection in case of services and others. So that has to be also taken into account. Yeah.
My question, sure.
Sir, and again, we see that the state tries to interfere in the autonomy of different bodies. Like it tries to interfere in the political system of the Supreme Court. So, what do you think in the current scenario? Are academic institutions able to take the interference of the state in deciding the rules and the promotion, like the position of vice chancellors? And one more question, that the policies apart from praising Nalanda and Vikramshila, what are the roadmaps that the policy show to establish such practices that were realized in those times?
Very good. Very question, question हुआ.
इससे जुड़ा हुआ
जी जी
मैं
बताइए.
बोल देता हूँ आपकी question.
हाँ जी जी बताइए.
तो एक तरफ नालंदा तक्षशिला उसका मॉडल है, फिर ये ऑक्सब्रिज मॉडल है, और यूरोपियन कॉन्टिनेंटल है, अमेरिकन मॉडल है. इसमें एक शायद जर्मन मॉडल भी है जो
हम्बोल्डियन मॉडल. चूंकि लंबा हमारा डिस्कोर्स जा रहा था, इसलिए हम्बोल्डियन मॉडल का जर्मन आइडियल ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटी का रेफरेंस नहीं दिया. वो आइडिया ऑफ
जामिया ने एक्सपेरिमेंट किया उसके साथ, काफी जर्मनी से पढ़कर आए.
हाँ.
उन्होंने ऑक्सब्रिज को नहीं पसंद करके हम्बोल्डियन को अपनी सिस्टम्स की तारीफ है, उनको काइंड ऑफ रिक्लेम करने की बात है. लेकिन दूसरी तरफ जो प्रैक्टिसेस सजेस्ट की गई हैं, आपने एक्रेडिटेशन और तमाम चीजों की बात की, वो न्यू पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट जो थैचरिज्म है उसकी तरफ ज्यादा जा रहा है. तो जो आ रहा है, जो हायर एजुकेशन काउंसिल होगा, लाइट एंड बट टाइट गवर्नेंस, तो इसमें टेंशंस बहुत सारे हैं. मतलब ऐसा लगता है कि कोई क्लियर कट मॉडल नहीं हम फॉलो करने जा रहे हैं इन प्रैक्टिस आगे. और सारे आइडियाज आ गए हैं, वो पॉप अप करते हैं अलग अलग जगह पे, लेकिन जो बनेगा फाइनली वो कैसा किमेरा बनेगा. मतलब इस पे अगर आप कुछ.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. ये दोनों को हम अगर क्वेश्चन को रिलेट करें तो जहाँ की पहले तो हम थोड़ा सा वो टच जरूर करना चाहेंगे. हम्बोल्डियन आइडिया ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटी और जर्मन, दैट वाज इन द 1810. That resulted into establishment of Berlin University in 1810. उसमें आइडिया हम्बोलियन आइडियल ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटी और जर्मन आइडियल ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटी है। उसमें वही है कि यूनिटी ऑफ रिसर्च एंड टीचिंग, दैट वाज वन। सेकंड वाज यूनिटी बिटवीन टीचर एंड स्टूडेंट, दैट वाज सेकंड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट। University to use Habermasian concept, university as a site of knowledge generation and university as a public sphere wherein open dialogue, discourse can take place, idea of democracy within the university. These were the defining aspect of this. But it is not just our own country. It is happening globally that the idea is getting interrogated. uh, Sharp departure from the past practices of the idea of university. Now, everywhere academic autonomy and other is getting. If you just see the literature in case of UK, you will find large amount of literature interrogating this, the practices of university governance, wherein academic autonomy, academic freedom is getting compromised or getting curtailed. That is one. Therefore, if you are saying that what is the state, uh, one is that now a state is not the sole actor, to my understanding. If new public management is coming in, new managerial practices are coming in the triple coordination model of Burton Clark, perhaps market has taken over all this. And a state role, earlier the state was controlling because you have the funding. So now it's control of the state control and command model of state regulation is now shifting to a state role as enabler, facilitator, and quote unquote regulator. So it is market will be deciding about this, and therefore innovative model of financing in terms of linkage between industry and the university. These new discourses are redefining the space of university, and therefore, even if you are claiming autonomy, the kind of autonomy which, whether it is Hambolian idea of university, German ideal of university, or Oxbridge model of collegiality in shared form of government, it will not be possible, especially when the public funding of university is taking place. So definitely a state will demand accountability, and a state will initiate new discourses aligned with the market. So पहले इसके पहले तो हमने कभी बात नहीं कही इम्प्लायबिलिटी। इम्प्लायबिलिटी तो हमने कभी बात ही नहीं की थी पूरे हायर एजुकेशन डिस्कोर्स में। स्किल्स की बात हमने नहीं कही थी। हम तो यूनिवर्सिटी को नॉलेज जनरेशन का होगा, प्योर साइंस का। अब अप्लाइड पढ़ाया, अब प्योर इंजीनियरिंग इज ऑल्सो गेटिंग कंप्रोमाइज वेयर इन यू हैव कंप्यूटर साइंसेस। कंप्यूटर साइंस IIT products, they are going for marketing and management. These are the things which are being determined by the market. A state is not the sole actor now. Forget about academic fraternity. Now it is not under your own control to decide and measure about quality. That I did not enter the whole framework of quality assessment and accreditation is changing in, wherein market is one of the dominant actor, an invisible presence of market in each of the aspects of university governance, be it related to curriculum design, be it related to examination, be it related to graduation outcome. पहले हम ग्रेजुएशन आउटकम में तो ये सोचते थे ना कि हमारा जो बच्चा पास आउट हो रहा है बहुत अच्छा सिटीजन बना, बहुत अच्छा ह्यूमन बीइंग बन गया। अब यह है कि उसको जॉब मिला कि नहीं, और वो जॉब मिला तो उसका पैकेज कितना है। तो दीज आर ग्रेजुएशन मेजर्स ऑफ ग्रेजुएशन आउटकम। तो ये स्टेट भी अब सबऑर्डिनेट टू मार्केट है। स्टेट रीअसर्ट करेगा कहीं, लेकिन इट इज वेरी मच is supposed to align with the market. And this is not just isolated case of yours. This is also having a global connect.
So, if the market is deciding so much regarding the educational outcome, and there will be a shift towards knowledge to skills, then there is no use of talking about the old universities that that give more importance to knowledge and wisdom.
तो ये बिल्कुल आपका सही है। तो वो कहे कि हम ऑक्सब्रिज मॉडल की बात आप क्यों कर रहे हैं या हम मोल्डियन आइडिया ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटी की बात करें, बिल्कुल सही आपका कहना है। लेकिन जब भी हम ये बात कर रहे हैं तो जैसे हमने कहा कि आपको स्टूडेंट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, हम हेड ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशन है या आई एम स्टेट से रिप्रेजेंटिंग ए स्टेट. For example, if you are coming to my, why you are asking autonomy, then you will have argument that the university is not any other organization of industrial society. It is having its own strategy and roots and tradition. The root of tradition of autonomy, idea of autonomy is inbuilt with the idea of university, and it is the competence and locus of power to decide about academic affairs and other between unity, establishing unity between teacher and a student, or at least teachers will decide how autonomy has to be exercised, rather than just you are representing a state and giving. So you will have argument to counter me that some of the things which are, क्योंकि अब जब भी बात करेंगे ना यूनिवर्सिटी should have autonomy, where does it the idea of autonomy comes in? I mean, definitely it comes from the idea of university. That is the reason I traverse through the journey.
और कोई सवाल है? Anybody else? जी.
Sir, जब हम NEP 2020 पढ़ते हैं तो we talk about public private philanthropic approach. हम public private partnership की बात कर रहे हैं और हम self finance courses की बात कर रहे हैं. तो public education, private education is good, but it, according to me, I don't think it should be at the cost of the public education system. So is it our lack of faith in the public system? जो हम existing educational bodies को strengthen ना करके तो new bodies को establish करने को जा रहे हैं, जिसको हम private.
Thank you very much for raising this concern. ये बहुत आपका genuine concern है कि नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में कई जगह जो हमने कहा उसकी बात को फिर दोहराना चाहेंगे कि कभी कभी तो ये लगता है ट्रेजर ऑफ आइडिया है, लेकिन ट्रेजर ऑफ आइडिया का डिस्कनेक्ट अगर वर्किंग रियलिटी से होएगा या प्रैक्टिस से होएगा तो वो उसका अपना इम्प्लीकेशन होगा. इसलिए जरूरी आपने जो कहा कि ये पूरा आइडिया ही लोकेटेड है कि हम एजुकेशन को पब्लिक गुड मान रहे हैं, सर्विस गुड मान रहे हैं या प्राइवेट गुड मान रहे हैं. अगर ये डिस्कोर्स शिफ्ट होएगा एजुकेशन एज ए पब्लिक गुड टू प्राइवेट गुड, definitely a different sets of practices will be there and principle will be in place, and therefore the point which you are talking about, many times we are taking pride in this, that at the beginning of this century our gross enrollment ratio was just 7 or 8%. Now the gross enrollment ratio has reached to more than 27.3%, and the girls enrollment higher than the boys. It is 27.8%. Last survey of higher education I am talking about. This is one. How it has become possible? It has become possible because proliferation of private institutions, fee charging private institutions. These have proliferated. In the beginning, I already talked about that at the time of independence, perhaps 24 or 25 universities were there. Now you have 1100 universities, and in majority of these universities, not publicly funded universities, private university, 43,000 colleges, majority of them private funded colleges. So ये तो private तो actor आ गए यूनिवर्सिटी में, तो उनका जब private आ गया तो नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में फिलैंथ्रोपिक कहा, लेकिन एक्चुअल में वो फिलैंथ्रोपी हमारा ये भी प्रैक्टिस सजेस्ट कर रहा है कि जैसे आई डू नॉट वांट टू कास्ट नेगेटिव से कुछ इंस्टीट्यूशन को फिलैंथ्रोपिक पर्पस से शुरू किया गया, लेकिन वो कहाँ ट्रांसलेट होकर के प्रॉफिट चार्जिंग, फी चार्जिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन में ट्रांसलेट कर गया. तो ये चीजें तो आ रही है और कहीं ना कहीं से इसका लिंकेज मार्केट से है और ग्लोबल कनेक्ट से. जब भी आपने गैट के पार्ट बने और एजुकेशन को सर्विस में शामिल कर लिया, तो उसका इम्प्लीकेशन आपके पूरे एजुकेशन सेक्टर पर होगा, उसके मैनेजमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस पर होएगा, डिस्कोर्स ऑटोमेटिक शिफ्ट हो जाएगा, जिसमें कि ग्लोबलाइजेशन का, अब हम इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन की बात खूब करते हैं कि हम ग्लोबल लीडर बन जाएंगे। पहले तो हमने अपना सिस्टम ही पूरी तरह से स्ट्रेंथन नहीं कर पाए, कंसोलिडेट नहीं कर पाए, तो ये ग्लोबल कनेक्ट का भी कंपल्सन भी है हमारे, जो कि हम अपने को डिसकनेक्ट करके नहीं सोच सकते या लोकेट कर सकते।
अपने अंडरस्टैंडिंग
जी जी
हमारे हायर एजुकेशन यूनिवर्सिटीज में एंटरप्रेन्योर मॉडल कंप्लीटली
नो नॉट एट ऑल।
Financing of higher education, private financing, and then I think we are also creating more inequity.
Yeah.
Because, you know what, even if you look into any certain aspects, we're looking at entrepreneurial employment generators rather than creators, where the state really doesn't want to provide employment. Okay. I'm not saying the state doesn't want to absolve itself of giving employment, but maybe at times it is also the bureaucratic model, and I don't know how much of it is a collegial model, but I feel we're shifting towards this entrepreneurial model in the name of sustainability. मुझे लगता है सर, I may be wrong, but my limited knowledge and understanding. वॉल्यूम कम कर सकते हैं।
अच्छा, तो आप तो बात हमारी सुन सकते हैं सर। हाँ, मैं आपकी बात समझ गया, आपकी बात समझ गया। ये जो अभी डिस्कोर्स हायर एजुकेशन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है, ये जो रेफरेंस खासतौर से इनोवेटिव यूनिवर्सिटी, इंटरप्राइजिंग यूनिवर्सिटी और इंटरप्रेन्योरियल यूनिवर्सिटी का, और सब्सिक्वेंटली मॉडल्स ऑफ गवर्नेंस, these ideas are getting reflected primarily in the literature of higher education in Europe. In our case, we cannot just dismiss the idea of entrepreneur, say, governance. It is in one way or other through a variety of policy initiative that is also getting reflected. So in coming years, earlier we never debated like education could be a private good also, not in very obvious terms, we are referring to as a service good. तो यहाँ तक तो आ गए, तो वो इंटरप्रेन्योर मॉडल भी in one way or the other is getting entry into entire space of higher education and higher educational governance. तभी तो होएगा कि आप कैसे इंटरनल रिसोर्स जनरेशन का फॉर्मूला, जब अगर आप हैं तो आप इंस्टीट्यूशनल लीडर होते हैं तो कैसे करेंगे, तो आप जो है सो रेंटिंग आउट योर ओन प्रेमाइसेस, अगर हम पहले जो पब्लिक गुड, अब हॉस्टल्स था तो हॉस्टल को भी रेंट कर दो, तो ये सारा चीज है आउटसोर्सिंग, ऑल दीज आर रियली, तो ये इंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का कॉन्सेप्ट भी मार्केट से लिंक्ड है इन वन वे और द, तो इसीलिए ना कि स्टेट का रोल, हमने कहा ना कि स्टेट का कंट्रोल कमांड अब नहीं है, स्टेट हैज टू प्ले, ये डिस्कोर्स का पार्ट है, स्टेट हैज टू प्ले ए रोल ऑफ एनेबलर, रोल ऑफ फैसिलिटेटर, नॉट कंट्रोल। कंट्रोल जो है, स्टेट फंडिंग पूरी तरह से होगी तो कंट्रोल एंड कमांड मॉडल होगा, लेकिन अभी रोल है कि एक फैसिलिटेटर का है, एनेबलिंग का रोल है। ये अभी शिफ्ट ग्लोबली डिस्कोर्स में है, वो कि अपने पॉलिसी में या प्रैक्टिसेस में आप खुद मैप आउट कर सकते हैं, उसका एनालिसिस कर सकते हैं।
आगे चल के सर वो गवर्नमेंट यूनिवर्सिटी है, शायद वो नाम से गवर्नमेंट यूनिवर्सिटी
अब जैसे ये तो हर जगह तो चल ही रहा है, तो एक तो बात है कि एज एकेडमिक और जो हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है उसके अनुसार से तो लगता है कि पब्लिक फंडिंग विल बी गेटिंग रिड्यूस्ड ईयर बाय ईयर, इसीलिए है ना कि इनोवेटिव फाइनेंसिंग के लिए अब जैसे नैक का एक्रेडिटेशन होता है या NIRF का है, तो उसमें पॉइंट है कि वेदर यू हैव बीन एबल टू जनरेट योर ओन रिसोर्सेज, व्हाट हैज बीन एनी काइंड ऑफ ग्रेजुएशन आउटकम, और तो ये सारा चीज कहीं ना कहीं से इसमें आ रहा है। तो अब आपकी जो कल्पना है कि पूरी तरह से पब्लिकली फंडेड यूनिवर्सिटी, तो दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल। Gradually it will be, I mean, the number of institutions, if you compare, now some of the, we never imagined the courses of social sciences would be charge free courses. अभी चूंकि हम सब एकेडमिक फ्रेटर्निटी, जैसे अशोका यूनिवर्सिटी में है, सिंपल लिबरल आर्ट कोर्स के लिए 8 से 10 लाख रुपए पर एनम देना पड़ता है, एंड पेरेंट्स आर हैप्पीली पेइंग फॉर दैट। तो एक ये भी मॉडली मत कर रहा है, तो ये चीजें भी है। तो इसका इम्प्लीकेशन गलत तो होएगा, क्योंकि हम ना सिर्फ डाइवर्स हैं बल्कि ऑल्सो अनइक्वल है। तो इनिक्विटी जय ही मार्केट अगर होएगा तो मार्केट डज नॉट डिस्क्रिमिनेट। अगर आपकी पेइंग एफोर्डेबिलिटी है, पेइंग कैपेसिटी है, तो मार्केट विल बी मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट फैसिलिटेटर कि आप इंडिया में ही गिफ्ट सिटी में जा करके हार्वर्ड की डिग्री और ड्यूक यूनिवर्सिटी की और स्टैनफोर्ड की लीजिए, तो ये तो आपके फ्री पेइंग कैपेसिटी। तो ये तो एक है जो एंटिसिपेटेड है कि आने वाले सालों में पब्लिक फंडिंग हायर एजुकेशन के लिए ग्लोबली, एक हम जो कि आप इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे थे, तो हिरोशिमा यूनिवर्सिटी की बात आई ना, उससे हम एसोसिएटेड रहे हैं। एडी अफ्रीका डायलॉग एक है, उसमें पहले फंडिंग वहां से आती थी, वो फंडिंग रिड्यूस हुई, यूनेस्को की फंडिंग खत्म हो गई। तो अब इस तरह का कहीं फंडिंग तो नहीं, तो ग्लोबल एक चैलेंज है कि एजुकेशन को पब्लिक गुड का जो कंसेप्ट था वो ग्लोबल डिक्लाइन है। अब मार्केट इज ऑन असेंडेंस सो फार।
Just like we do public funded research, to publish it also in good journals, money, it should be for free. Public funded research, the
Actually,
results should
we are
be free.
living, this world is full of binary oppositions, you know. On one hand, we talk about academic oligarchy, on the other hand, we talk about academic autonomy. So, I'm very happy that Sir was, in a very detailed manner and at length talked about different models, you know, and you were also making a query pertaining to entrepreneurial model. We have collegial model and this this bureaucratic model and this entrepreneurial model. Now, with the passage of time, what we have seen, the job fields have become the stimuli, and accordingly, universities are responding. Earlier, as Sir shared with us, that universities were the site for creating new knowledge. Now we have to create knowledge according to the demand. You know. The job fields have shifted now. And Sir is also talking about, public good, as to whether education is public good, private good, service good. To add one more thing, social good. So we are still, sandwiched in between as to whether we have to project education as public good or private good or social good or service good. But in this transition period, we have to take all the developments together and accordingly act upon. And Dr. Javed Hussain Sir was also asking about the German model on the basis of which Jamia emerged. So all these models together and all these ideas as shared by Sir will definitely pave the way for understanding how we have to prepare ourselves for furthering the higher education. Madam, I'm very thankful to Professor Harjeet Kaur Bhatia, ma'am, for uh, inviting Professor Kumar Suresh sir, because with him now today's morning is full of new ideas. So I request Professor Harjeet Kaur.
The students have their program, so they will continue. We are so innovative in generating finance that our university has started taking money from one department to another for just renting out the facilities, even this auditorium or whatever room, hall. So this kind of financing is really sad.
Even the research fund,
Yeah.
public funded research to, for dissemination, you have to pay money to a journal in the government. I mean, it's very constrained, sir. Academic curriculum is constrained.
Esteemed speaker, respected Ma'am Ali Heather sir, Javed sir, and Sarita ma'am for their presence. We are also grateful to the administration for their unwavering support and encouragement. I would like to extend our thanks to our organizing team, Huma and Nazreen, Sirat for making posters, Mohit and Shada for arranging refreshments, Amra for clicking photographs, and Manisha and Tanya for culminating minutes of the meeting. Thank you to each and one of you for ensuring the smooth functioning of the event and to the volunteers for their hard work and dedication. Additionally, a big thank you to all of us, to all the audience who have been listening so passionately and also for making time to be with us today. Once again, thank you to our esteemed speaker and everyone involved in making their extensive lecture a memorable and enriching experience for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali.
अच्छा, अब और है।
अभी है।
तो इतना